After living in a van for 2 years, I built a home. Now my parents want it for my brother? Sarah sat at the edge of her newly constructed porch, staring at the earthy hues of her eco-friendly home, the culmination of 2 years of grit and ingenuity. The van life had been a testament to her relentless pursuit of a dream, a sustainable architecture that could coexist harmoniously with nature. With calloused hands and a weary spirit, she had learned to build rather than merely design. Yet as her proud creation gleamed in the warm sunlight, an unexpected shadow loomed over her heart. In a matter of days, the foundation of her hard work would be threatened by her family's decision, and she had yet to grasp the enormity of that impending judgment. For years, Sarah had watched her younger brother Dan coast on the easy charm of their parents. Always the golden child, he had the support of their family, every failure brushed off with justifications they never offered her. Now, as Dan celebrated his recent promotion, one she suspected he hadn't fought for, the weight of her sacrifices felt all the heavier. She thought of how many nights she spent on the cold, hard floor of her van, envisioning every nail she'd driven into this home and every tear she'd shed over meticulous designs that had started as mere blueprints in the back of her mind. And yet, now that the fruit of her labor was within reach, she would have to face the harsh reality of her parents' ambitions for Dan, a future she had never asked for but felt destined to endure. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The pang of betrayal lodged deep in her chest, and Sarah began to unravel the threads of her emotional tapestry. She could picture her father's proud eyes and her mother's warm smile transforming to discomfort as she confronted them. Did they even comprehend the long nights she'd spent studying design principles in parking lots? Could they feel the cold sweat pooling in her palms as she presented her eco-house project at competitions, fighting not just for respect, but validation that this chaotic journey meant something? Each moment of glory Dan experienced felt like an echo of all she'd never achieved in their eyes. As her family gathered for Dan's celebration, her heart raced. Surrounded by laughter and clinking glasses, Sarah was an island of unease amidst the joyous crowd. Would they recognize her struggles or continue to focus on the easy reward of Dan's perceived endeavors? The gnawing thought that their decision to give her home to Dan would validate his complacency made her stomach plunge. She had poured her soul into these walls. They were not just bricks and mortar. They were the embodiment of her resolve and determination. Taking a deep breath, she knew it was time to speak up. Each step toward the living room felt like wandering into an arena where the stakes had never been higher. Would she be strong enough to confront her parents, or would her voice tremble under the weight of familial obligation? As her body tensed, a small voice within whispered, if she didn't fight for what was hers, would anyone ever truly see her? The atmosphere thickened around her, and bitterness rose like bile in her throat. In the face of her family's expectations, she stood on the precipice of an emotional storm, uncertain if she would leap into the clarity of truth or bury herself in silence. The cacophony of laughter and celebratory toasts washed over Sarah like a crashing wave, momentarily drowning her resolve. She stood on the fringes of her family's elation, the weight of their expectations pressing down on her shoulders. As she gripped the railing of her porch, she felt the firmness of the wood beneath her fingers, a tangible reminder of her labor, a contrast to the less defined paths her family envisioned for her. I need to say something, she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. Heads turned, and suddenly the bright atmosphere dimmed, the joviality lifting like fog in the morning sun. The smiles faded into expressions of concern, confusion, and even a touch of irritation. Not now, Sarah. Can't you see we're celebrating? Dan's dismissive tone cut through the air, and her heart tightened. This was a familiar dance for her, a struggle against the tides of her brother's charisma and her parents' admiration. She had spent years learning to stand down, but not today. I appreciate your promotion, Dan, but this isn't just a house. It's my home, she pointed out, her voice gaining strength. I built it from the ground up with dreams and sacrifices, and it's not right to assume it would just be handed over to you. Her parents exchanged looks, their disappointment manifesting as furrowed brows and pursed lips. Sarah, this is about family, her mother interjected gently. Dan needs a place to start his own life. Maybe he needs to work for something, Sarah said, the words pouring out before she could reconsider. I lived in my van so that I could create this place. I fought hard for everything I have. Why should he just get it because he's, well, Dan? There was a stunned silence, punctuated only by the hesitant clink of glasses. Her chest rose and fell, a thrum of adrenaline coursing through her thoughts. Did she want to alienate her parents? Family further? Yet could she remain silent, letting their preconceived notions crush her spirit? In our family, we share opportunities. We support one another, her father finally said, his tone laced with condescension. Your brother has a future that requires stability. And I have a future too, she shot back, realizing her voice had shifted, hard edges softened by a newfound confidence. Just because I forged my own path doesn't mean it's any less valid than his. I've spent years figuring out what I want to do with my life, and I deserve respect, just like anyone else. Their expressions were a mix of discomfort and surprise, and for the first time, she did not truly care. In that moment, clarity surged through her. If she claimed her narrative, it would change the course of her story. This wasn't merely about her home. It was about her identity, her resilience. What she's saying is that we can find a solution that respects both of your journeys, her mother attempted. But Sarah wasn't ready for Band-Aid fixes anymore. The stakes could not be lowered to appease the discomfort of the room. Denial flickered in Dan's expression, morphing swiftly into anger. You think you're better than me just because you built a wooden box? I've been working hard, Sarah. You have no idea what it's like to achieve something with actual effort. You think a title makes you worthy of getting everything handed to you? Each word felt like a step deeper into her own conviction, a path of self-assertion. What kind of life are we encouraging here? The tension thickened, and she regretted the implication of his complacency. Yet the reflected light of her labor shone too brightly to go ignored. Each misstep she had made along her journey had solidified her determination. Each sleepless night contributed to the strength of her voice now. As she scanned their faces, her parents' uncertainty and Dan's simmering anger, an unexpected calm washed over her, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Suddenly, another wave of anxiety surged. What if the battle for her home meant dismantling the very fabric of her family? Maybe a real conversation is needed here, she said slowly, acknowledging the crossroads that lay ahead. Determined, she resolved to fight for her place under the sun, even if it meant grappling with the fears of losing her family. But just as she felt her spirit rise, an unsettling thought loomed in her mind. If her family wasn't ready to see her, would she ever be ready to see them? The silence hung like a thick fog, obscuring the familiar warm contours of her family dynamic. Sarah blinked, gathering her thoughts under the pressure of their gazes, each like a spotlight illuminating her path. The awareness that she was in uncharted territory electrified her resolve. She felt unmoored, yet through that unsettling sensation came a surge of determination. She was tired of being overlooked in the narrative that defined her family. Let's get everything on the table, she continued, her voice still unwavering but tinged with urgency. We can't move forward until we acknowledge everyone's contributions, including mine. Her father's jaw tightened. Sarah, you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. Complicated? She retorted, her frustration bubbling over. Isn't it more complicated to pretend nothing is wrong? I earned my place here. Can we all stop acting like it's debatable? His reticence dissipated slightly, revealing a flicker of concern. "You're being dramatic. Dan." "No, Dad. I'm clear. I'm not backing down this time." The words coiled around the tension in the room, daring anyone to challenge her resolve. She could feel the blood pulsing through her veins, awakening every dormant ounce of courage. Dan crossed his arms, defensive but visibly shaken. "You've got this whole thing upside down, Sarah. This isn't just about the house." "It is about the house," she interrupted. "It symbolizes everything I've tried to create, everything I am. It's not something to be tossed around based on popularity." A flicker of understanding moved across her features, quickly followed by the customary strain of family loyalty and the fear of discord. It can't just be," Sarah interjected, her heart racing, but fueled by a sense of righteous alignment. "I'm not asking for anything extravagant. I'm asking for recognition. I left my old life behind. I need you to hear me." Her insistence felt almost foreign in her own mouth, but as the defiance lingered, she glimpsed a new version of herself, one capable of commanding respect. But shadows of doubt clawed back to the surface. Would her family reject this Sarah, the one who feared nothing? Her father sighed heavily, composing himself. "This is about our future and what's needed to support each other." Is it, though? Or is it about maintaining the status quo? The room crackled with unresolved emotions, whispers of fear and defiance swirling like confetti in the air. She was treading a fine line, a tightrope between what she knew could be right for her and the comfort her family craved in their established order. "Sarah, I never wanted to hurt you," Dan said. "I'm just trying to get ahead. And I'm trying to save what I built. We're both just being honest," she offered, softening a little. Amidst all the confrontation, something was reshaping. Conversations that had once placed her at the periphery were slowly drawing her back to the center. Yet anxiety twisted her stomach at the thought of the ensuing fallout if her family couldn't see the value in her fight. She glanced outside to see the sun dropping behind the horizon, casting long shadows across the property. It evoked a sense of urgency, a realization that her moment was fleeting. Perhaps nothing would change unless we redefine our support. For the first time, an unsettling thought gripped her. Did they truly want to evolve, or would her insistence only fuel their resistance? "Change isn't something we're accustomed to, Sarah," her mother murmured, a hint of defeat slipping through her defenses. "Maybe it's time to be uncomfortable," Sarah replied, her voice steadying. But as she embraced this new vulnerability, an uncomfortable truth sweltered in her chest, like fire beneath ash. Even if she succeeded today, shadows looming in her family's collective disbelief might still leave her feeling anchored to a past that needed liberation. As the evening's cool air settled in, she braced herself for the response, aware that this was just the beginning of a more profound struggle that would not only challenge her, but could redefine them all. Would they come to terms with her journey, or would her conviction drive an even greater wedge? Sarah inhaled deeply, steeling herself for whatever came next, for she understood now that this battle was not just for her home, but for her very essence. The silence lingered, punctuated only by the distant rustle of leaves outside. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she awaited a response, acutely aware of the weight of her words and their implications. She watched her family exchange glances, each look a tapestry of confusion, concern, and frustration. The steadfast resolve she had summoned began to tremble under the scrutiny of their expectations. "Sarah," her father began, "we've always worked as a unit. This is how we handle things." "Working as a unit doesn't include me. You rarely acknowledge my role and sacrifices. My choices aren't mere footnotes in the family story," she countered, the familiar fear of rejection creeping back into her mind. Yet, standing in the eye of that emotional storm, she felt an unexpected clarity. Dan shifted in his seat, his internal struggle apparent. That flicker of guilt that she had seen before carved deeper lines across his brow. I just thought it would make sense for me to take over. I mean, that's what's expected, isn't it? What's expected, or what's always been done, Sarah retorted. The very rigidity of tradition felt like chains around her ankles. She realized that each word she uttered was not just a response, it was a challenge, an unearthing of her buried aspirations. In that moment, Sarah recognized she was not merely reclaiming space within her family, she was redefining herself as an agent of change. With this realization came a new resolve to articulate the deeper tides of her ambition. You talk about expectations, Dan, but what about my expectations? I created this environment. I worked tirelessly, using every skill I gained over those years to make it a home. This isn't just a physical space, it's a manifestation of who I am. The shadows of doubt receded slightly as her words resonated, their impact undeniable. Her mother's expression hardened, the initial flicker of understanding replaced with protective instinct. We understand you worked hard, but we can't just discard tradition. There's a reason these things are passed down. It's about stability, legacy. Stability. That word echoed through Sarah's mind. Heavy with implications. Was her family's idea of stability a gilded cage? She felt her resolve coalesce into a fierce energy. I need to create my own legacy, she asserted, allowing the truth of her journey to flow free. I've learned to speak up for myself, to advocate for my work and worth. I'm not afraid to challenge what's comfortable. Swallowing hard, she recalled the nights spent planning, the lonely road trips where she had charted her dreams, and the grit it had taken to build her new life. That fear of being marginalized burst its confines, and she felt it in her soul. I didn't just build a house, I rebuilt my life. No one can diminish that. There was an uncomfortable silence that followed, as her family processed this facet of her identity they hadn't seen as clearly before. Sarah's heart raced, propelled by vulnerabilities and fierce hope. It was a space rife with potential, and yet it loomed ahead like a precipice. Every family has to evolve. It's not about abandoning the past, she continued, her voice steadying as she navigated the fine line of confrontation and connection, but rather incorporating our individual journeys into the family narrative. Just when she felt the tides might shift, her mother's gaze sharpened, a steely resilience taking hold. Do you really think we can manage that? Can you truly forge a path that includes our legacies? The challenge hung in the air thick with tension, each word a stepping stone in the uncertainty of their future. The intertwining threads of ambition and familial loyalty now battled for dominance, and Sarah braced herself for whatever decision lay before her. The tension in her chest drilled deeper. She could not turn back now. What if their acceptance was not just about a house, but about redefining who they all were? She clenched her fists, readying herself for the next move, as she understood the depths of her transformation were yet to be revealed. Let's start redefining that legacy then, she said with a newfound determination, feeling like a flame igniting. It's time for us to embrace change, not just endure it. Would they find a path forward together, or was the chasm between ambitions too wide to bridge? A soft breeze swept through the room, stirring the leaves outside as Sarah steadied her breath, her eyes fixed on her family, awaiting their next words. The anticipation hung heavily in the air as Sarah absorbed her family's silent reaction, aware that everything was about to change. She felt suspended between hope and trepidation, realizing that her declaration had unspooled a thread of discomfort in the fabric of their familial dynamic. Each face before her bore the weight of history and expectation, yet her own voice rang louder within her, demanding to be heard. Change isn't easy, Dan finally said, his voice timid yet slightly defiant. And I get that you've put in the work, but it's more than just the walls we've built. It's about where we come from. Exactly, Sarah agreed, the flicker of a new strategy illuminating her thoughts. But where we come from doesn't have to dictate where we end up. The essence of family should evolve with us, not chain us to past mistakes or failures. Her father leaned forward, a mix of curiosity and stubbornness edged across his features. What do you propose then? We can't simply rewrite our entire legacy, can we? In that moment, Sarah understood that she had to bridge the gap between tradition and her aspirations. No, we can't erase our past, she began, her voice quiet yet unwavering. But we can acknowledge it while expanding our horizons. I see potential in us, together. We could start something new by focusing on collaboration rather than division. Her mother's expression softened, if only slightly. You want us to trust you to lead this? To change how we've always done things? A thrill coursed through Sarah as clarity emerged. This wasn't simply an argument. It was an invitation. Trust comes with understanding. I'm willing to show you, not just tell you, what this could feel like. Let's involve everyone. We take our strengths and merge them creatively, together. But how? Dan interjected, his voice now laced with intrigue rather than opposition. How do you envision this working? You can't just wish for change. She paused, conjuring all the plans she had made, the projects she had fostered. We could start by having family meetings, setting goals together, strategy sessions, if you will. Each of us brings what we have to the table. We share responsibilities. It doesn't have to be just me pushing for this. A silence echoed back, but it wasn't oppressive anymore. It held possibility. She had unveiled the tools she had been crafting through her journey: resilience, communication, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. The notion of shared responsibility sparked excitement in her, while a dose of apprehension lingered at the edges. Could they really adapt as a family? What if we fail? Her mother asked, doubt creeping in. We might, Sarah replied, but we'll learn together. It's about creating a supportive environment where we value each other's perspectives. We can't grow if we stay stagnant, fearing the unknown. The slightest nod from Dan encouraged her. And what if your ideas don't align with ours? Then we adapt. The answer rolled off her tongue, confidence propelling her forward. It's designated space for discussion, for brainstorming. If we can be honest about how we feel, then we'll be much closer to understanding each other. Questions still loomed in the air, but for the first time in a long while, Sarah sensed a shift. As her family mulled over her words, a crack opened in the wall of convention, creating a flimsy yet real opportunity for connection. Awareness of her personal growth mingled with a sense of responsibility, and with each heartbeat, conviction filled her with warmth. But just as she felt hope surge anew, the reality struck. An idea had been birthed, yet how long before the winds of disbelief swept it away? The very foundations of her family's future were still in the balance. Would the journey to redefine their legacy forge deeper bonds, or would it shatter the fragile links painstakingly constructed? The weight of her newfound commitment coiled in her chest, leaving her breathless as uncertainty danced just out of reach. As the leaves outside rustled more forcefully, echoing the turbulence within, Sarah squared her shoulders, steadfast in her decision to push forward, regardless of the storm. She knew that they faced external pressures and internal hesitations, but this was a pivotal moment in her quest for transformation. Tomorrow was uncertain, but one thing lingered as the day waned. She was resolved to carve her own path, no matter how frayed it might become. And so, with palpable anticipation, she prepared to lay out the next phase of her venture, eager to discover whether her family would follow suit or if her path would splinter off into uncharted territory. The sun broke through the clouds the next morning, casting a new light on Sarah as she prepared for the family meeting she had proposed. She felt the weight of the previous evening's discussions swirl in her mind, mingling with excitement and anxiety. Possibilities stretched before her like an open road, yet fear flickered at the edges. Each step required navigating the unknown. As she brewed coffee, Sarah reflected on her plan. She wanted to instill a culture of openness, to shatter the remaining remnants of their old ways. This wasn't just about sharing ideas, it was a radical overhaul of their familial structure. She envisioned their discussions brimming with creativity and collaboration, stretching beyond their habitual exchanges into a true partnership. But doubts nagged at her. Would her parents be ready to embrace this approach, or would they cling to their old assumptions, viewing her aspirations as mere whims of youth? The prospect that her ideas could be dismissed felt insidious, undercutting her newfound determination. Each cup of coffee filled meant another chance for her to focus on her mission, to lay down a foundation for their path forward. When the family settled down at the kitchen table, Sarah's heart raced. She noticed Dan's skepticism lingering in the air, while her parents bore expressions of curiosity tinged with apprehension. It was now or never. "Thanks for coming together, everyone," she began, forcing her voice to remain steady. "I really believe we have an opportunity here to reshape our dynamics into something more constructive. I want us to work in harmony rather than operate in isolation." Her mother fiddled with her coffee mug, looking just as anxious as Sarah felt. "What if we struggle to agree? You went all in on this. What if our views clash?" "Then we share the struggle together," Sarah responded, heart pounding fiercely. "Think of it as embracing our differences rather than fearing them. If we each have a voice and work to, we can thrive in our diversity rather than suffocate in unity." Words tumbled out, and soon the conversation transformed. Dan, leaning back in his chair, began pushing back on certain aspects, his doubts transforming into constructive criticism. "So you think we all bring strengths to the table, and that will magically solve our issues?" "No, it won't be magic," she countered, invigorated by his engagement. "But slowly, step by step, we will learn to capitalize on those strengths. We have decades of wisdom among us. Let's blend our experiences and move forward from here." Through the ebb and flow of their discussions, she could feel an internal shift within herself. Where once there had been uncertainty, now there was growing confidence. They dissected challenges methodically, mapped out potential goals for their family, and envisioned projects they'd undertaken in the past with fresh insight. With each thoughtful exchange, a palpable bridge began to form, threading through the uneasy past toward a hopeful, shared future. Yet, as they closed the meeting with tentative optimism, questions darted across her mind, stinging like a cold wind. What lay ahead? While they had crafted initial steps, did her family truly understand the magnitude of what she was asking? Compromise was essential, yet how deeply would they be willing to delve into their differences? That evening, as she washed the dishes, unease settled over her like a heavy blanket. With each scrubbing motion, she weighed their discussions in her mind. The thought that her brother might suddenly contest her vision gnawed at her, revealing insecurities she had thought she had overcome. When she woke that morning, an unusual calm had settled over the house, creating a peculiar juxtaposition with her turbulent thoughts. As she sat down to prepare her notes for another discussion, she hesitated, fingers hovering over the page. She needed to plan carefully. These conversations were delicate, requiring precision paired with openness. At breakfast, Sarah attempted to engage the family in casual banter, but an uneasy silence broke the surface tension. Dan, unusually quiet, stared at the cereal before him, as if the box contained answers to questions he had not yet articulated. "Are you okay, Dan?" she finally asked, breaking through the silence with her cautious voice. He glanced up, eyes clouded. "I guess. I'm just thinking about what you proposed yesterday. It's a big change, and I'm not really sure we can solve everything just by talking it through. I mean, how do you know our parents will actually listen to us?" The defensive tone stirred something within Sarah. Instead of responding with irritation, she sought to dissect his doubt. "Is that what you think? You don't trust that we can create this space together?" "It's not that," he sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "It's just, sometimes I feel like we're trying to reinvent the wheel when we've never really figured out the one we've got." The exchange forced Sarah to dig deeper. Perhaps Dan's skepticism was rooted not in dismissal, but in caution, a veil shielding him from the risks associated with change. Pushing forward, she veered the conversation toward exploring their family's dynamics instead of confronting his doubts head-on. Maybe we all need to collectively question what's worked and what hasn't. What if we took a step back and looked at our family as a business where every voice matters? Her words felt empowering, reinforcing the collaboration she envisioned. Like a business? Dan's brow furrowed in contemplation. Okay, I'm listening. Encouraged by this small breakthrough, Sarah committed to fostering an atmosphere where everyone felt equal and valued. The morning wore on, layered with complexity, as they prepared for their family meeting. When evening fell, the family gathered around the table again. With each member present, Sarah felt her heart race. This was it, time to address Dan's initial resistance while emphasizing the importance of their collective journey. Before launching into the discussion, Sarah shared a personal story that hinted at her own struggles with acceptance. When I decided to take time away to build a different kind of life, I was scared, but it also opened doors I didn't know existed. It taught me the value of vulnerability and the necessity of compromise. As she spoke, she could see Dan's expression shift, understanding creeping into his gaze. Perhaps by revealing her own vulnerabilities, she could encourage her family to do the same. The conversation began to flow naturally, with each family member revealing their concerns and aspirations. They tiptoed into deeper emotional waters, risking discomfort to uncover truths they had previously skirted. It was exhilarating yet harrowing. Sarah could feel the atmosphere changing, solidifying the vision they collectively aspired to. But just as the dialogue began to shape into a cooperative venture, a familiar tension emerged. Dan's defenses rose again, and he interjected, "But what if we've already failed? What if this isn't who we are anymore?" The weight of his words hung in the air, requiring careful navigation. The room felt stifled with his assertion. In that vulnerable moment, Sarah realized she needed to take a stance. Failure is part of growth, Dan. If we commit to this process, to each other, we will learn, but we must be willing to face discomfort. As the discussion shifted toward a realization of shared responsibility, Sarah recognized that while they had covered significant ground, questions remained unanswered. Would her parents perceive Dan's hesitation as a threat or a valuable insight? With an urgent need to define roles and establish trust underway, Sarah sensed an immense shift boiling beneath the surface, and it felt like the calm before a tempest. Tomorrow would present a pivotal crossroads. Would her willingness to forge connections prove robust enough to weather the brewing storm, or would the fragility of their family structure unravel, leaving her once again seeking clarity in an unclear future? The day dawned heavy with anticipation, and Sarah woke with a fervent resolve, a determination molded by her recent revelations. Instinctively, she had conjured a ritual to ground herself. The combination of warm light and coffee seemed to infuse her with energy. Yet the shadows of last night wrapped around her thoughts, whispering doubts that simmered just beneath the surface. She closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing, and felt a pulse of clarity push through her anxiety. This was the day she would confront the truth of her family's dynamics and her brother's ambivalence head-on. It felt monumental, yet familiar, reminiscent of the way she navigated the tight quarters of her van, making space against insurmountable odds. As she prepared for the family meeting that evening, Sarah meticulously laid out her ideas for fostering a more collaborative environment. She scribbled key points, framing them around the metaphor of a business meeting. It was just the structure their family needed. Each person would have a role, a stake in their family's future. As she reviewed her notes, a deep conviction settled over her. She was not merely seeking approval, she was forging pathways toward mutual understanding. Later, around the dining table, Sarah took in the faces of her family members, each etched with their own stories. Her parents seemed caught between pride and concern. Dan, still cocooned in uncertainty, darted glances over at her. There was an air of gravity, a quiet expectation that made her heart race. Taking a deep breath, she opened the meeting with a transparent admission. "I know that change is daunting, especially given our history, but avoiding these discussions only festers old wounds." Her eyes landed on Dan, his brow furrowed, a reflection of confusion mingled with curiosity. Last night, you voiced your fears about inadequacy. I want to acknowledge that, but our past failures can illuminate the path ahead. Yeah, but what if we just keep going in circles? He shot back, frustration rising in his voice. That's precisely why we're here, to reassess and clear the air. It's time to draft a new family agreement where we openly communicate our needs and expectations. The words spilled from her, a cascade of pent-up thoughts and emotions. She sensed an eagerness to hear more, an unspoken agreement to trust the process. As they delved deeper, Sarah structured the discussion like a brainstorming session. Strengths and weaknesses, grievances and aspirations floated onto the table, each family member taking turns to speak. This wasn't merely a talk, it felt like a pact being forged in the fires of vulnerability. Slowly, she saw Dan begin to loosen. With each contribution, his walls cracked ever so slightly. I guess I don't want to put in the effort if it's just going to fall apart again, he admitted, vulnerability slicing through his defensive posture. Sarah's heart ached at his honesty. What if we see it as a new beginning? Failing is only one possible outcome. There was a warmth in her voice, an invitation to share fears, to redefine perceptions of risk as they collectively paused to reflect. Let's commit to accountability, she suggested, looking around the table. We need to check in with each other consistently. Does that sound like a fair start? Their responses trickled in. Tensions shifted as agreements were made, fracturing the heaviness. Each smile and nod became a glimmer of hope, as if the very air around them lightened. As dessert was served, Sarah felt a cautious optimism weaving through the atmosphere. Conversations had begun weaving tightly together, a web binding them not in obligation, but in open communication. The shadows of uncertainty still lingered, but they no longer felt insurmountable. Yet the familiar storm brewed beneath the surface. Just as Sarah thought the meeting might culminate in a breakthrough, their father interrupted. What if we've been stuck because we aren't ready to face the real issues? Her heart sank at the implications of his words. A chilling realization settled in. Confronting the larger family dynamics would require not just honesty among themselves, but also an examination of long-held misconceptions about their father's role and responsibility. What do you mean by that? She asked, unable to mask the tremor in her voice. Are we truly addressing everything? He replied, eyes narrowing gently. Or are we just skimming the surface? Sarah's pulse quickened. The very foundation of their evening surged with tension. Suddenly, cracks were exposed, leaving her unsteady. Would this conversation reveal deeper fractures than the ones they had already begun to mend? The air thickened with unspoken truths, and Sarah could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on her. The atmosphere shifted palpably, a charged silence punctuating the table. She had entered the meeting convinced of her approach, convinced that fostering a new understanding among her family would mean addressing the difficult issues directly. But as her father's words hung heavily between them, a ripple of uncertainty clawed at her resolve. What if they were indeed skimming the surface? The thought provoked a whirlwind in her mind. Had she merely brushed aside the deeper rifts that had defined their family narrative? Sarah's heart raced as she glimpsed the unsettling possibilities. Long-held grudges, unacknowledged grievances, and, above all, the complexity of her father's unyielding role in their lives. "Let's address it then," Sarah proposed, her voice shaking yet resolute. "Let's pull the curtain back, strip away the niceties, and see what's really beneath." Part of her trembled at the prospect, but this was the moment of truth. She could either retreat into the safety of vague discussions or bravely venture into the raw, potentially painful territory where genuine healing could happen. Dan shifted uncomfortably, his earlier openness now cloaked in doubt. "Like what? You mean the issues we're too scared to bring up?" His eyes darted to their parents, seeking their reactions. "Yes," Sarah asserted, her own conviction growing stronger. "Honesty might hurt, but avoiding it has only led to resentment." Her mother's face clouded over, and Sarah braced herself for the familiar pushback. This isn't something we can just force out in the open like that, she warned. There's a reason we've dealt with things in our own ways. What ways? Sarah challenged, a flicker of frustration igniting inside her. Ignoring the problem hasn't worked. I want to understand the dynamics that have kept us trapped. It's not just about understanding, Dan interjected, his voice lowering to a near whisper. What if it's too broken to fix? What if reopening these wounds just makes everything worse? Sarah felt a pang of fear echoing through her, but the urge to challenge those fears grew stronger. What if it's not about fixing it, but learning how to navigate through it? We owe it to each other. Easier said than done, Sarah, her father interjected again, a tone of authority etched in his voice. We're not all ready for that. His words sparked something in her, a mixture of anger and the desperate need for clarity. You say that, but what does that even mean for us? How long do we keep tiptoeing around each other? We've spent years silently blaming one another, hoping the next holiday would somehow be different. As if struck, her family fell silent. She found herself grappling with the truth of her words. Why had she, despite all the work and the self-discovery, assumed that the family could simply overcome their past failures? Had she trapped herself in an illusion of progress while the deeper rifts remained untouched? Maybe we need to air out the real grievances, she continued, voice gaining traction. Our communication is so focused on what's polite, we're missing what's real. Dan's expression softened, and for the first time, she sensed a kinship in his struggle. But honesty requires vulnerability, he said cautiously. What if it exposes something we can't handle? Then we tackle it together, she replied, realizing that her own courage was a pivotal factor in this equation. We build from here, or we risk building nothing at all. All? Her father's eyes narrowed, a glimmer of recognition sparking in his expression. All right, if we're going to take that plunge, we'll need ground rules. This is not just an airing of grievances. It's about working towards something tangible. Sarah nodded, the impulse to take control surging again. Let's establish the framework, starting with trust. Transparency is paramount. It's our foundation. Feeling a strange sense of empowerment, she started scribbling additional points onto a fresh page. A new family agreement was forming. Yet beneath the momentum was an unsettling undercurrent. Had they truly stepped onto the path of understanding, or had they merely dipped their toes into water that threatened to swallow them whole? With every mark she made, doubt gnawed at her. She would have to confront not only her family's lingering issues, but her expectations of them. What if the path ahead didn't yield the healing she craved, but instead unveiled even deeper conflicts? Just as she finished her thoughts, her father finally spoke. "And what about you, Sarah?" he asked, voice low yet probing. "What is it that you truly want from us?" Her breath hitched, the question piercing through her defenses. She sensed this was a crucial juncture, a moment potentially laden with consequences. What did she want from her family, and could she handle the truth, whatever it may be? The room, once filled with tension, now pulsed with potential. But with potential came uncertainty. And Sarah knew the risk of deepening their vulnerabilities lay not just in her words, but in what her father's question had awakened within her soul. "Honestly, I want all of us to be able to support and understand each other fully," she admitted. "But beneath that, I want validation. I want to stop feeling like I have to dive alone into the chaos around us." The revelation spilled from her, inciting an electric silence enveloping her family once again. And in that moment, as if flickering lights dimmed to a mere glow, she understood. This journey might be less about uncovering her family's past and more about confronting the unspoken fears and desires tethered within herself. The weight of that realization lingered, leaving her with a pressing question that loomed larger than before. Would validation come at the price of desired honesty? Or was the truth going to turn their fragile agreements into deeper confrontations? The next day dawned with the promise of transformation. Yet Sarah couldn't quell the sensation of apprehension that clung tightly to her. She rose early, the sun streaming through the windows, illuminating the clutter of ideas and emotions swirling inside her mind. Today's family meeting would be pivotal. It was an intersection of courage and vulnerability, a chance to unravel the complexities woven into their familial fabric. As she brewed her morning coffee, her fingers danced over her notes, firming up the strategy she had carefully outlined. This was not just about addressing grievances. This was an opportunity to forge a new path, one built on understanding, respect, and open dialogue. However, a shadow of doubt whispered in the back of her mind. What if the effort would not yield the results she hoped for? When the family congregated around the dining table later that evening, a palpable tension filled the air. Dan's brow was furrowed in contemplation, while her parents exchanged apprehensive glances. Sarah's heart raced. She could feel the weight of their expectations looming over her like a storm cloud. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady yet underscored with urgency. "Today, we're going to continue our conversation about change. I want to focus on our roles as a family, who we are, and how we can grow together. But that starts with honesty." With each word, she felt her resolve strengthen. She was here not only to share her thoughts, but to ignite a genuine discussion. After all, they had skirted around the unspoken for too long, and the truth had the potential to unshackle them from the past. As feelings began to surface, Dan opened up first. "I know I've pushed back against some of this," he said, his voice trailed by a hint of vulnerability. "But it's because I feel neglected in our conversations. I'm pressed between what I've been told and what I truly want." Sarah felt a flicker of connection, the tension softening as Dan continued to speak honestly. "I want to feel like I belong, like my voice matters." His words struck a chord, resonating with Sarah's own ache for recognition. "I empathize with that, Dan," she replied, sincerity coloring her tone. "We've all felt sidelined at different points, and that's why we need to change the way we communicate. We need to create a space where everyone feels empowered to speak up, to share their thoughts and dreams without fear." "You don't understand the burdens," their father interjected, his tone harsh yet weary. "It's easier to stay the course than to venture into uncertainty. I've always wanted the best for all of you." "Dad, we're not children anymore," Sarah urged, her voice imbued with conviction. "It's not about disregarding tradition, but rather evolving it to encompass what we each need moving forward. We can't process our growth if we don't honestly reflect on our past." Silence ensued, thick with unspoken reflections. Her parents exchanged knowing glances, the weight of realization playing on their faces. Slowly and steadily, they each began to engage, cautiously revealing their own perspectives. "I see now that I've held on too tightly to my role," her father finally admitted, the facade of authority cracking just slightly. "I didn't want to let go of the stability I thought I provided. I see how it might have restricted your paths." With his admission, the palpable tension began to dissolve. Walls were coming down, and fresh air poured in. "This family can't thrive on unspoken expectations and past traditions alone. We need to be honest about our futures," her mother added, her voice quavering as she allowed tears to form. "And that requires acknowledging all our struggles, including mine." With that, the floodgates opened. They shared stories of their doubts, their aspirations, and the complexities that made up each person's unique journey. Sarah listened intently, weaving their individual narratives into something larger, a tapestry of their collective identity. As conversations turned from reluctance to spirited dialogue, she started to feel the transformation crystallize. Her brother's vulnerability enhanced hers, just as her openness illuminated another aspect of their family life. No longer were they standing at odds. They began to reshape their legacy by embracing the multifaceted complexities of their evolving relationships. As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a surge of newfound confidence. They had committed to this journey, and she was no longer standing on the sidelines. She was claiming her space as an integral part of their family's evolution. The flicker of hope ignited a warmth within her, and she understood this was her achievement, the capacity to express her needs while simultaneously fostering change in others. Days passed, and Sarah's home became a nexus for their continued conversations. Each discussion layered in complexity as they uncovered roots of discomfort, but also pleasure from seeing each other with fresh eyes. Her parents began to embrace their individual roles, while Dan, feeling validated, erupted in creativity and hope. Months later, standing on her porch, a sense of pride enveloped Sarah. Her once isolated home now felt like a shared sanctuary, a reflection of their growth, a tangible testament to the hard-won understanding that change required continuous effort and honesty. She achieved what she once thought impossible, a family in real alignment, no longer defined by buried feelings. Each day, they committed to honing their narratives, ensuring that every voice resonated as they navigated life's challenges together. Sarah smiled, a genuine smile. She conquered not just the space she built, but the relationship with her family she had forged deeper than ever before. Finally secure in her own worth, she had established her place as an architect of both her home and her familial harmony. This was her moment of liberation. Each story of personal triumph demands recognition. If you've resonated with Sarah's journey, you need to show your support now. Subscribe immediately to this channel to immerse yourself in more exclusive emotional tales that inspire change and growth. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these empowering stories. Comment your reactions and theories, and let's ignite a conversation around overcoming personal battles. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear Sarah's inspiring conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to become part of this incredible community. Your voice matters.